Incredible afternoon. Incredible afternoon, everyone. How are you guys doing? All right. I was on a call. All right. Let's see. Do. The heck? Anywho. All right. I need to share. Incredible afternoon, everyone. Share this file. Goodness, I'm having a rough day. I'm telling you right now, having a bit of a rough day. Had a bit of a rough morning with my computers, and they were acting cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And yeah, I feel like I'm running on fumes right now. I'm waiting for a customer to come in who is doing a print job. They are in the South Florida area, but they needed someone to print out their sublimation prints. So we're going to do that. Only issue is they got those crazy tumblers from Michael's. And so, he had to book a session about doing the full wraps for those. So trying to have them get this done before they get here. But if you're in the South Florida area, you can. If you don't have your sublimation printer, you want to try out sublimation, or let's say your printer is down, we definitely can handle that for you and get your prints printed for you. We also have an EcoSolvent printer, so we can print banners and posters up to 18.5 inches wide. So keep that in mind. Even if you need it to be shipped to you, we do provide that service. Just have to contact us directly. It's not on our website just yet. Okay, so one moment. I'm going to share this out just as soon as it comes. Okay, there we go. It popped up. Let's go ahead and get it all shared out to my groups. Share to a group. All right. Okay, there we go. And we're going to copy, select all. We're going to copy, and we're going to share and share and share and share and share and share again and share again. And it's everywhere I think that I am able to share to. If you have a group or you're in a group and they allow you to share live videos, definitely go ahead and hit that share button. If you are a group owner and you would like for me to add your group to my rotation of things I share. I promise you I won't abuse it. I don't always I go live a lot, so I won't abuse it and just do every single live that I do. But for really, really good, important, informational ones based off of the content that your group is about, I'll share certain videos in your group. All right, so we are all shared out. Boom. All right, there we go. Oh, excuse me. Now let's get into this. Now, the lesson that we're going to go over, and this is officially, y'all, if you don't know, this is officially the last training tutorial, live class, live mini class of 2022 for the professor. I won't be live anymore after today until January 9th, 2023. That's when the kids go back to school, and that's when I'll be back on the grind. But no more videos. This is the last one. So we're going to make it a good one. Something that's going to be able to help you guys with your designing and understanding files and things of that nature. Of course, we're going to do it from Silhouette Studio. That is my design program of choice. But the things that I'm going to show you will apply to really any vector-based program. So if you're using, even with, not quite Cricut, because it opens a little bit weird, a little bit different, because theirs is like contour, but like with Affinity Designer, Corel Draw, Illustrator, it's going to be a lot of the same things, like how you approach the design. Now, the tools may be named a little bit differently, but how you approach design is going to be the same. But of course, we're going to do this from Silhouette Studio because that's my program of choice. I think it's a really good gateway designing software to really get your feet wet to designing and understanding all of the intricacies of designs and how files are set up. All right. If you don't know who I am Shakia, the professor of HSINK365 LLC. We are the parent company of the amazing Honestly SpINKing brand. Boom. And there's a couple of other things that fall under HSINK, like HSINK Digitals, HSINK Brands, HSINK Designs, and Silaholics Anonymous, which is my baby, my brainchild from like 7, almost 8 years ago. And it's an online platform. And it's what I created to be able to teach you guys visually how to use Silhouette Studio as well as the Silhouette Cameo machines, because I have used them for like my machines for so many things, from paper crafting to creating templates for foam board, to creating shirts and cutting adhesive vinyl, HTV, Jet Pro 3G. I've used so many different medias, maybe like not so much like fabric and like leathers and things like that, but I've cut quite a few things, either cutting them directly on my machine or creating templates so that I can cut them by hand. So well-versed in the world of Silhouette. This is not a sponsored video. And of course, our last entity, which is 365 Creative Academy, where I help you to unlock your creativity with in-depth classes on all things creative, business, design, sublimation, and so much more. So definitely check out our lineup of classes over on our website, shop.hsink365.com or learn.365 Creative Academy. All right. So let's get into this. Let's just say hello. Hello, Sandra. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me live. Yay, I'm often get to watch my last live of 2022. I did a video yesterday. I think I kind of want to end off doing something with Honestly SpINKing products and just showcasing, because we're still going to be shipping out products. So you can still order. I'm just not going to be doing live videos. I'll still be online. I'll still be helping via text, writing stuff out. Just no classes, no live videos for 2 weeks, because that's really what takes up the bulk of my time. All right. I started going back through videos, starting with design bolt tutorials, trying to do techniques multiple times, then go through bachelor's and master's, then all the classes that I had. Yay! Professor is on vacation mode. That's why things are not working correct today. Yeah, that's probably, I was having a lot of issues with stuff and my brain is in vacation. But it's not really vacation. I'm just taking a break from the teaching part of it because it takes a lot. A lot of people may make it seem like, oh, it's easy to go in and, and to be a coach or do like digital products, which a class kind of sort of is. You teach it once and you can resell it. But when you're prepping and you're doing all that and you have to keep all these things in your head and write out and try and keep your lessons cohesive and all of that, like it becomes a lot. Like this is not by any stretch of the imagination something that's easy to do with being someone that instructs and does classes. It takes a lot out of you, especially when you're doing back to back ones. So well-deserved 2-week break from the official teaching part of it. So yes, I did. The files were sent. All is well. Got that done for the program, for the service programs to be printed out. Hello, Cora. How art thou? How are you? Thank you for joining me today. Hello, Aquisha. Thank you for joining me and being a part of my last live, one of my last live. I'm going to figure out something to sublimate. That's going to be the last one we do. I'm going to figure out something to sublimate. All right. Yeah. So let's get into this. But thank you for joining me from one of my last live videos. All right. We're going to head on over right into Silhouette Studio. Okay. Oh, almost forgot to pull up the tickety talk. Let's do that real quick, shall we? Let's bring this up. Silhouette Studio. Let's flip and go live. And let me get rid of my face. Cool beans. All right. So last night we had a refresher for essentials to Silhouette Studio. And I used this particular image as an example to break something down. And it kind of clicked for me in this might be a struggle for others as well. And it's just never really been communicated in a way to where you can kind of connect the dots and make that connection on, yo, this is the issue that I'm having, right? So she had said that, she was having, still kind of struggling a little bit with understanding like compound path, subtract, grouping, like, because I'll say, all right, when you do it this way, it's technically the same thing. Like it doesn't matter, so trying to wrap her head around when to use compound path, when to use group, when to use subtract, when to use subtract all. When you open up a design, and she's like, if I'm getting something from Etsy or from Creative Fabrica or Design Bundles, like each one is like different. And I identified the issue as she was taking a universal approach to how she looked at the designs when she opened them. And that happens with a lot of people. You open them up and you expect every design to kind of work out the same way, for them to be set up the same way. But we have to remember that each design is set up by, a different designer. How I design might be different from someone else's. What I have as the top layer, somebody else may have it set up a different way. Somebody may have it set up as a compound path or group. Each designer will be different based off of their own personal styles. And most times when they're creating a design, it is made in a way where it's going to be easiest for them. But then it's like, okay, I want to share this with others. I want to be able to make some money off of all the hard work I did in putting this together. I want to kind of, make some money off this. I want some passive income. So they'll end up selling it. And not everyone knows the complete inner workings of designing and graphic designing. So you'll open it up and it's like, man, all this stuff is everywhere. All I want to do is just ungroup it. All I want to do is just change the color on it. Why is it so difficult? Why is it so complicated? It wasn't like this for the last file. We cannot take a universal approach to designs. It is so important to understand what tools and what certain tools and what functions do at their very core, so that no matter how it's set up when you open it, you don't get all kind of frazzled and you'll know what to do next. Okay. So let's take a look at, I'm going to give you a couple different scenarios. This is going to be a lot of information, and this is going to be one of those videos where you'll probably have to dissect it. Maybe make your own timestamps of like for where to go back to. Come back, leave a comment, put a timestamp to say, okay, hey, I need to come back to 16.30, like 16 minutes, 30 seconds. I need to come back to that point, and leave a note for yourself. If you're not going to write it down on a sheet of paper, let my comment section be your note section, where you will, in that moment, make a comment so that you remember what you needed to remember from it. Because as you're watching the video, you might forget. Leave a comment. That's your notes. To put a timestamp, and then of course come back and write it in your actual notebook. Stop making it hard for yourself, guys. Like that, there's comments there. Utilize them to your advantage. Now, TikTok, y'all can't do that, but All right. Couple different scenarios, right? We're going to take a look at, just these two. Let's say you wanted to put this on, whether it's a shirt with adhesive vinyl, with adhesive vinyl, on a shirt with HTV, or if you wanted to put it on a mug or a tumbler, a hard surface with adhesive vinyl, or if you wanted to set it up for sublimation. If it's something that's going to be printed, what you see is what you get. This right here, if it's going to be printed, it doesn't even matter how it's set up. If the background was solid or if the background had all of the pieces, like where it fits like a puzzle, it doesn't matter because it is going to be digital. If you're going to put it like on a Facebook banner or you're going to put it on your thumbnail, it's just something that will live on the computer. Or if it's something that's going to be printed out, it does not matter how it's set up. As long as when you look at it, it's how you want it to be. Don't worry about ungrouping. Don't worry about compound pass. None of that matters if it is digital or if it's going to be printed. Okay. Now, you have to consider how it's set up if you're going to break something apart, if you're going to cut it. Whether it is cutting it with a plotter like a Cameo, a Cricut, a Roland, US cutter or Graph Tech. If you're going to laser cut it, then how it's set up matters. For me personally, if I'm going to do something and it is vinyl, whether it is adhesive vinyl or if it is HTV, especially smooth HTV. Glitter, I don't find that it shrinks too much. Neither does flock. But like if it's smooth HTV, once you heat it up, some people do the 3 tack method, where you tack it for 3 seconds and then you take the care sheet off, you put the next layer, you keep doing tack prints until you get tack presses until you get to the last one. That can help avoid a lot of shrinkage. But if you go and you like that first one, you press it for 10 seconds, you're going to have shrinkage. So when you start to put on your other layers, it's not going to line up. So if you do it that way, it may not shrink, right? So if I'm layering this, I don't want to have to deal with the shrinkage. if I'm doing adhesive vinyl. We're all human. Things can shift off to the side a little bit, and you might end up seeing gaps because it's a puzzle piece like this. And there's going to be times where the file is set up like this. The designer made it to where it's a puzzle because that's their style of doing things. Me personally, I prefer to just have a solid background and layer my pieces right on top. But like this, it's not going to be like exact. It's going to probably have like a couple of gaps in it, but hold on. Let's see if we can get this to line up almost exact. Okay. So this, they look exactly the same, but they are different setups. This would be solid and everything would rest on direct on top of that. Nothing will be touching the substrate. Nothing will be touching the shirt. Nothing will be touching the wood. Nothing will be touching the acrylic. I mean, the single colors, only the black will. Well, with this, some people like it this way because they're figuring like, okay, well, it lets me know where to put this. If I don't have just the solid background, how will I know, like, you know, if you didn't group them together, how would I know where to put this? Like how do I know I'm putting it in the perfect spot? That's where things like alignment marks and registration marks come in at. But I prefer to have it this way, and I'll go through the steps to make sure that it lines up. I don't care for this way because, like I said, you can make it can end up being where there is a gap because of shrinkage. You're going to have like little gaps in it. And I just, it just doesn't always look great. If I'm putting this on an orange shirt or I don't want to see those colors peekabooing through that. I don't want to see the white peekabooing. It's supposed to be solid. Now, if you are like me and your desire is to have it where it will be solid, you have to know how to get it to a solid state. With Make Compound Path, it's going to do a couple things. It's going to make something whole, as in WHOLE, so whole, or it can create a whole, HOLE, which these are. When you release, you are releasing those shapes. You are filling in those holes. You're making it where it's no longer a whole piece, but it is a bunch of separated pieces. So if I wanted this to be solid, I'm simply going to right click, release compound path, and weld wherever things are overlapped. They're on top of each other. You just hit weld. It's just going to become one piece. And now it is solid to be able to put behind here. Oops, hold on. So if your design comes like this, but you want it to be solid, we simply release compound path, weld it, and now that's a solid piece. That can be your outline that you're going to cut from vinyl. Like you're going to cut it from white vinyls that you can sublimate on top of it. You might cut it from white vinyls that you can put a clear water slide on top. That is your outline. And you've made it where it is a solid cut and not an individual, not individual pieces. Now, I did that to that. We start up there. Let's say you open up the file, right? We're going to show of hands. When you see how this is going to play out, this is A and this is going to be B. Which result do you have and how do you react to it, right? Because they're going to technically be the same. Like you're going to be able to get the same results. We don't know how someone set their file up. Every file, when you have all these elements, there is technically layers involved. Something has to be above, something has to be below, in the middle, and all that. there are layers to things. When it is open like this, you really can't tell what is on top and what's below. I'm going to click on both of these and pull them out. They look as if they are set up the exact same way. Well, I guess I kind of exposed what was going on, but they look like they will be set up the exact same way, but they're not. Even with me moving it, if you notice, the color pieces are on, when I move the black, the color pieces are on top of the black. Whereas with this one, the black is on top of the colored pieces. If you don't, not everyone gets in the habit of, as soon as you open something, you're going to click it and move it and then undo. If I were to release compound path on this one, it all turns to black. How many of you have freaked out when you release compound path and everything turned to a solid color and you think that you've done something wrong? Show of hands for scenario B. This has happened to you and you're freaking out thinking that you did something wrong. Like, oh my gosh, what happened to all of my colored pieces? Thank you for double tapping the screen over on TikTok. Thank you for liking the video over on Facebook and YouTube. I know it's somewhat of a delay. She says, not anymore. Well, you are a dedicated student. So you've learned all of these things. See, you guys need to be like Miss Cheryl and be like, not anymore. But when you first started, did it freak you out until you learned how the system works? So this could end up happening is like you're thinking, okay, something must be wrong. This is what compound path is supposed to do. It's supposed to release all the shapes. Now if I move it, you didn't lose anything. It's still there. It's just that the way that this one was set up, the black layer was technically on top. So once you release all of its pieces, cover up the parts in the back. You still do the same steps. You're going to weld. Only difference is now you're just going to have to send that welded piece to the back. Now on this one, if I release compound path, it looks like nothing has changed other than the fact that I now have a bunch of small little boxes. But that's because on that layers panel, the black was technically behind those colored pieces. So once I release, it did the same thing as this one. All those pieces are there. You just don't see it because it was behind it. Still the same steps, right click and weld. Now I have a solid piece. We end up with the same results, but as you complete, and technically it was the same steps. Both we released compound path, but how it looked on screen was different because of how it was set up. Don't freak out when it happens. Just learn and understand how design setup works, how graphic designing works, and how the tools work. Okay. Now, these, I think we're done from the same one. Hold on. I'm going to undo. All right, let's see. I actually forget how I had this one set up. So we're going to release compound path. So yeah, these were both set to the back. I'm just going to weld it. And then I'm going to send it to the back. Now, what is different about these two is some designers may have these set up as a group, some as a compound path. Here, if I right click, I have the option to ungroup. Do I have the option to release compound path? Yes. Why is it there? I have no idea because there's nothing here that is a compound path. If I hit release compound path, guess what? absolutely nothing happened. It's still together. There's a reason why this is in the order that it's in, because you should always look at whether it's grouped first before we get to the compound path part. So we're going to ungroup. And that is what split these up. Now, as I come over to this one and right click, ungroup is grayed out. So your only option to separate these, if you wanted to change the colors, you didn't want them all to be yellow. You want them to be yellow, pink, purple, green, orange, or whatever. Your only option is to release compound path. But because nothing is touching, in this situation, release and ungroup will do the same thing. Make compound path and subtract and grouping would really be about the same, like this, give you the same results, because there's no inner parts, nothing is touching, nothing is overlapping. You're either going to ungroup or you're going to release to separate all of these pieces. That is something that is like important to understand, is when you right click, how to read the panel that is here, and look for the ungroup first, and then look for what's available under compound path. Now, here, it didn't really make that much of a difference, right? But if we take a look at, other than the fact that my white parts are not, they're white and not orange. So, okay. Now they both look the same. Okay. My reds, if I click here and move it, they're all going to move together. Click on my reds, they all move together, right? So just like this, they both are seemingly the same. If I wanted to take this one and separate it, I want to switch up the colors. Like, okay, on the original design, they only had one of the lighter blue. Well, I want to change something. I want more of the lighter blue over here. I just want to change something on this. I want to separate my, what's this thing? My puzzle pieces, and make these different from the words. So on this side, I only have the option to release compound path. On this side, I have an option to ungroup. So if I ungroup, I'm going to ungroup it, but it doesn't release everything. I still have one big box around here. Some designers will, once they design, they will select all the colors and group them together. So if you ungroup, and once you ungroup, you're going to see a bunch of individual boxes. Some designers will go and say, okay, these belong together, so I'm going to group those. I'm going to group all of the letters that make up the word heart, all of the letters that make up he, am. So that, like, these all have groups, are grouped together. This is a single one, right? So now if I want to break this apart, I have to, ungroup isn't even an option. That means that this was actually made into a compound path. So we're going to release that. Now, heart, we can ungroup. And we have each letter, the A and the R, still have their centerpieces. And when we wanted to change the colors on these, we could, right? Maybe I want this to be all of the colors of the design, but like that. But over here, there is no ungroup option. You have to release compound path. Here is where the differences lies in this. Remember, make compound path releases all shapes. I'm actually just going to change the color of this just so that you can see the lines and what happens. So on this one, when you release compound path, everything now has individual boxes because it all became released. Everything became its own individual piece, even the middle parts of the A and the R. So this doesn't look like a regular R anymore. Now, I've seen tons and tons of YouTube videos to where they're designing on the design page, right? The design page is white. In their instructions in their YouTube video, they're going to say, take the outside part, make it the color that you want, make the inside part white. Because visually, it looks like an R at this point. Because you made it the same color as the background. But if that background ever changed, then that's white. You would have to then go in, click this, and also make that the color of the background. But Compound Path takes that and it creates a hole, H-O-L-E. Subtract in this instance would also do the same thing. So if a designer set the file up, you want to break all the pieces up, you want to make them individual colors, you have to release Compound Path, because that's the only option you're going to see. You're not going to see Ungroup. And then you have to go back in and make either each letter a compound path or make the entire word a compound path. Well, when would I make the whole word a compound path or just the letter? If you think that you would go in and make each letter individual, like an individual color, you're going to want to choose compound. I mean, you want to choose making each letter its own compound path so that you can change the color. If you're going to make them all the same color, it really doesn't matter if you go group or compound path, because if you group them together, they're all going to change. If you make it a compound path, all the letters will change. But if you go back, or let's say the next client doesn't want it to be that color, you go back into that template. Well, because you made a compound path, you have to do this all over again. You got to release compound path, and then you got to go back in and make it a compound path so that you can make each one a different color. Which function do you choose is dependent on how you plan to actually use the file. And you can use the same exact file an infinite number of ways. Whether it is filling a part in with the pattern, if it is filling it in with color, if it like individual colors, if it's going to be, all right, well, I want to change my design. I want my H to be bigger than the rest of it. Maybe make the T bigger. I'm going to rotate this. It's infinite possibilities. You just have to understand how to break the file up to make it work for your current needs in that design moment. You cannot take a universal approach to every single design and think that it's going to be the same exact steps every single time. Although tracing and how trace works does not change. You put the trace box, you adjust your threshold depending on where it needs to be, and then you hit trace or trace and detach. Those functions are the same. It works exactly the same. But depending on the image that you have, depending on the background that's on that image, depending on if you're going to cut it up into pieces or you want to change the colors, or if you're just going to do a print and cut, you're going to choose a different trace option. You cannot take a universal approach to designing or understanding a design that you didn't make, because every designer is different. I promise you, if you guys get that concept and you don't go into it trying to do the exact same steps for everything, it will ease some of your frustrations. I'm starting to realize that's where so many of your frustrations come in at, is you want it to be the same. You don't want it to be complicated or different. Like, why can't this all just be the same? Why can't I just click one button and it's going to do the same thing on every single project? I just want to click a button, print it, and go. It's not going to work that way. When you opened it up again for the next client, it was a compound path. So why do you have to remake it a compound path again? I'm not sure what you mean. When I opened it up for the next client, it was a compound path. So if you're trying to say, like, when I had this, right, and let's say it was a compound path. So let's say for the first client, I had it and it was like the original design, all like the words were one color, right? But now, let's say my other, like a client study was like, well, shoot, I don't want it to all be one color. I liked when I saw it, I saw one, you had one, or I saw someone else, and each letter was a different color. This worked for a certain client, and you may have made it a compound path, because I'm always watching videos and I see that drilled down on so many videos. And I'm like, why are you telling people to make that a compound path? That's not, it's not there's like a right or wrong, but I'm like, man, you're making it more complicated. But about 75% of the YouTube videos that I see, they treat compound path like it is the holy grail of designing in Silhouette Studio. And I don't get it, right? So if you're watching tutorials and you're following it verbatim and they told you to make it a compound path, but now your client wants each letter to be a different color, or you want each letter to be a different height, you want to move it around, you want to change the spacing, you have no choice but to release compound path. And once you release it, you are releasing the inner parts of the R. So in order for this to look like an actual R, you have to click off, select the outside of the R and its inner piece, and make that a compound path. So it creates that hole. That R is made up of two elements, the outside edge and then that inside little circle loop thingy, whatever. The A has the outside edge and this triangle. So I have to make these a compound path, or you could even subtract it. It becomes it still becomes a compound path, because even if I subtract this, there is no such thing as unsubtract. If I subtract it, the only way that I'm going to remove that part, see, again, no ungroup. The only option is to release compound path. But you make it a compound path, so now you can make it an individual color. Maybe someone didn't want this for autism. We use puzzles for epilepsy because it's like trying to, they say it's like a puzzle, like the way their brain works. So maybe I didn't want this to have autism colors in it. Maybe I wanted it to be purples for epilepsy. Maybe it just says, I am his voice, he is my heart. Maybe it's a different type of condition and someone wanted this design set up. I love the sunflower. First thing someone said, beautiful butterfly. I like that butterfly, but I don't want it in the autism colors. I want it pure white. I want it for I wanted the colors for epilepsy. I wanted the colors for lupus. I want it in the colors for breast cancer, because that still is a puzzle in, figuring out breast cancer. So I am, maybe they want to change it to her voice. Like, so right now, this design just had, I am his voice, he is my heart. So what if somebody wanted to make this feminine? I am her voice, she is my heart. Well, if this was, I'm going to just make this, like if it was a compound, if it was already a compound path, I have to release that so that I can do things like, I'm going to take the S. So this was, I'm going to ungroup. Well, this is a compound path. So I'm going to release compound path. I lost the inside of my O. So I'm going to select that, make that a compound path. So now I'm going to take the S, bring this over here. So I can't have this be a compound path if I need to move things around. So now I'm going to turn that to, let's release compound path. Then I got to go over here, make that a compound path, make that a compound path. All right, let's move this over, move this over, compound path. I'm going to take this out. I need to find somewhere where there's an E. I'm going to take the R from here. All right, well, now I need to spread this out a little bit more. So we're going to take this word and kind of come over. Take I am. And this piece here, move it over. Take the sunflower, maybe move that up since I moved this part. So now I've changed this from saying I am his voice, he is my heart, to I am her voice, she is my heart. You never know how you might need to change a file. So it isn't, but it's important to understand how to change the file, that it's not going to always be ungroup. Sometimes you're going to have to release and you're going to have to regroup things together or remake things into compound paths. That is really what my program is about. Anyone can go and I can come over here and say, all right, I'm going to show you how to change this from his and he to her and she. And I'm just going to ungroup. I'm going to move these letters around. All right, cool. Now you have a different file that have some different words. Okay, well, shoot, how in the heck do I do this? Why am my file not turning out? Okay, all the professor did was click here, click there. Why is mine not working? It's because you don't understand the tools. Is it easier and simpler to just group and ungroup than to make a compound path? Not really. Because here's going to be the next part of it. And like I said, it depends on what you are going to do. If you want to, like if it's just going to be solid colors, then yes, it can be easier and simpler to do just grouping. If you're going to just do solid colors versus doing a compound path, right? Now, let's say I'm going to do here. Wait, is this? Okay, no, that's a compound path. I can't do that one. Okay, that's this one. Let's say I'm going to fill this in with the pattern. This is all grouped together. As I fill this in with the pattern, depending on the size of that piece, even for the word, like even for these words, some of them were bigger, some of them were smaller. So if I take this and I fill it in with a pattern, well, this one actually, some of them are a little bit different, but like up here, you can really tell this piece is smaller. So I'm going to ungroup it. This piece is smaller. So the pattern filled in differently than everything else. So in order for them to fill in proportionately, I have to make this a compound path. Now, all of the pieces have the same scale of that pattern. Then there may be times where, like when I was showing them earlier about distressed things, like when you just group this together, I'm going to now release. If I had something, and let's say there's a lot of little pieces to it, and I'm filling it in with the background, it's a really, really big, like digital paper. Each one of these is like having that digital paper in this file 20 times. And that can bog down Silhouette Studio. So that the system sees it as one and it's not a top heavy file, you may want to make this a compound path so that the system just sees it as one. So they're going to be different times and different reasonings for why you would make something a compound path versus why you would group something together. If I wanted, like if I'm going to edit, right? And let's say it's a lot of letters. I'm going to do this one. So let's say I wanted to adjust some edit points on some things, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the edit tab. 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 I'm going or whether it's words, like let's say it's a shape or something, and I want to edit the points. If it's all in one, when I double click, I'm going to get edit points on everything. And I can make my edits on this word at one time. I'm going to go here. We're going to pull this down. We're going to increase my A. I'm going to make my E shorter. I'm going to make my H. Okay, hold on. Let's take it from. Yeah, I may not be able to grab all of these pieces. Okay, well, let's do it like this. It's okay. I'm just gonna push. Come on. Push this side in. Okay, so I might need to make some sort of edits to my file. I want to bring the middle of the A part up. But I like being able to kind of see the design to make sure that I don't kind of come over and cross over too much, because then I'm going to have a hole in the middle. Well, when it's all grouped together, you have to go to the A, make the edits on the A, then double click again and go to the R, then do the edits over here. It's not like it's a big deal, but I know for me, for speed of designing, like when I'm trying to be quite productive and not spend hours on the design, even just double clicking, an extra double click can throw you off and stuff like that. So I may, just for editing purposes, I might undo it afterwards, but just for editing purposes, so I can see all of my edit points at one time, I'm going to make it a compound path just so I can double click. I can make my edits. I can move stuff around and do all that, like whatever my edits are going to be, I'm going to do all of those. And now I want to make the colors different. I'm going to release compound path and then just make this a compound path. It's just for me to ooh, what the heck I did with that? I don't know what I did with that. Okay, undo. All right. I can use keyboard shortcuts. I'm not always right-clicking and making things a compound path. Keyboard shortcuts are easier for me. Yes, I'm learning that it depends on your needs. Exactly. So you may make certain decisions based on your needs. All right, looks like my client is here for our in-house one-on-one for tumblers, and I'm going to print some stuff out for them. So I got to go, but hopefully this last live video of 2022 helped you understand like how to read your files a little bit better, help you understand, when to use make compound path or grouping, and you kind of see them for what they are, like as individual tools and things like that. Okay. I would say if you guys have any questions, but you guys had a whole lot of time to ask questions, and now my client is here. So I gotta run. But I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in 2023, maybe in some live classes. I'm still here. If you have questions, post them in my groups, Honestly Speaking, or Silaholics Anonymous. And don't forget to visit the website, shop.hsink365.com. That is where you're going to find all of our amazing products. Hit up that paper, ink, and tape bundle. It's the best deal, best price point, best bang for your buck on our website if you need paper, ink, and tape. And also sign up for some classes. All right, y'all. Until next time, have a great one. Continue to unlock your creativity and be incredible. Peace. I will continue this. I do this all the time. So if you're new here, I do this all the time. I'm always live. It's just that this happens to be the last one for 2022. There's a lot of content though that you guys can go back in and hold on. Let me switch around. There's a lot of content that you guys can go back in and watch. now that I'm not going to be live and bombarding you, sometimes you're like, man, I was just watching a video and now you're live again. I stopped watching that when it come over here. Now you can catch up. You can binge watch all of the old stuff. But I do this all the time. I love teaching. It is my passion. So definitely support the channel. Give thumbs up, refer us to others. Hey, this is where you're going to learn some great information from to really help you in your business or help you with your with all your creative endeavors. But this is the last one, so I won't keep it up anymore for 2022. This is the last one for this year, okay? But thank you for chiming in. If this is your first time catching me live, won't be your last. Will be your last for this year. Hope to see you in 2023, okay? All right, y'all, gotta go. Until next time. Peace.